Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
John, would you check outside your? Can you see your window where you are now? Outside?
Yeah, sort of, kind of.
Oh, is the sun shining?
Oh, nothing but sunshine.
Beautiful day. I had my first swim in about 3 weeks this morning.
There you go.
Warm enough to get in the pool. How about that?
That's great.
Now, there's a reason I'm asking. This is not my topic today, but I've got to throw this out. It's a bright, beautiful, sunny day, right? Perfect day. Perfect day. You know what's coming, right?
IESO.ca.
How much power do you think solar is providing for Ontario today? Give me
Not much. I'm guessing 4%.
Yeah, you're about half. How about give it about half of that, about 2%?
No, come on.
Yeah, I've got another, but I have to. This is so outrageous. You know, with our prime minister off to California to sign some sort of climate deal. Honest to God. So at 1 o'clock today, Ontario was using 16,364 megawatts of power. There's people out there have got their air conditioners going, I guess, right?
And their pool heaters.
And their pool heaters and stuff like that. So keep in mind, 16,364 megawatts. That's about average for this time of year. A little bit more sometimes. Okay. So of that, okay, don't forget now, we got 42 wind farms constructed at the cost of somewhere between $8 and $10 billion. Okay. So wind at 1 o'clock this morning, a nice little breeze going, 519 megawatts, solar 383. Between the two of them, 5.51% of Ontario's power needs. Get that. 5.51. Yesterday, it was about 4%. That's and when you think of the billions of dollars, and if Trudeau wants to, in fact, he wants to do away with fossil fuels and have only wind and solar. I mean, it is living in some sort of dream world for this guy. What the hell is he smoking? All right. Question. I have a question for you. Got to be honest with me, okay? This is not a liberal show. This is a conservative show. You're allowed to be honest. Even on conservative shows, you're allowed to even talk about God, okay? You can't. If you're a liberal, you can't. Question. At any time, do you believe the Trudeau government or any government in Canada was in danger of being overthrown or facing an insurrection from the truckers, their supporters who lined Wellington Street during the so-called Freedom Convoy? Or do you agree with Rex Murphy, who writes today? Rex is such a beautiful writer. God, he just tears liberals apart. Quote, says Rex Murphy, I love this. Only a fringe minority think Canada faced a coup or insurrection. I love that. A fringe minority. In fact, writes Murphy, quote, fragile and feeble was the concocted, artificial, and fictitious justification for imposing the Emergencies Measures Act, unquote. Rex Murphy, writing today. Beautiful. If you get a chance to read Murphy, you'll chuckle, but you know what? You'll strike right close to your heart. So I ask again, does anyone really believe that there was any justification for removing our civil rights, freezing bank accounts, and imposing other draconian measures provided by the Emergencies Measures Act? This is an act, don't forget, intended to be applied only when all other legal avenues have failed and the government is in danger of being overthrown. There are hearings underway today It's farcical, farcical. And don't forget this. I mean, we're paying for all of this crapola, right? Hearings underway today into Trudeau's reason for imposing the Emergencies Measures Act are a farce, a farcical farce. No one, including liberals, liberals with a sane mind anyway, anybody with a reasonably functioning mind could possibly believe the truckers and their supporters were about to storm Parliament Hill, throw the government out of office, and stage a truckers' coup. Who the hell believes that, other than, as Rex Murphy says, a tiny fringe minority? I would write a tiny fringe minority of idiots. No one in their right mind could possibly believe that. The truckers, and they knew this at the time, were unarmed, they were peaceful, noisy, yeah, inconvenient, yeah, a pain in the ass for some people living in the area, but in danger of starting an insurrection, overthrowing the government? What do you think? Look, everybody knows there was no justification for Trudeau imposing the Emergencies Measures Act. But in typical fashion, the Liberals during the hearings today went underway yesterday, trying to justify. You should hear them. Dance of the idiots, okay? Even going so far, and we all know this, as lying through their lying teeth, claiming the police asked for the act, which of course the police deny. Somehow or other, the Liberals didn't get to the cops. If they had, I guess they forgot, okay? They should have gone to the cops and said, listen, if anybody asks, would you please say, yes, we asked for this. I guess nobody got to the cops, okay? So the cops were honest. They said, no, the March MP said this. OPP and city cops all said, no, nobody asked us for the Emergencies Measures Act. But now the dance that's underway, trying to justify. Well, I didn't really say that, except we have. Of course they did. Look, folks, come on. Country teeters on the brink of recession. 25% of us say they'll have to sell their homes if interest rates continue to climb, and they will continue to climb. Another virus is among us. Businesses continue to stagger and close. Farmers can't afford to plant or fertilize their crops. Ukraine takes a terrible pounding. We in Canada send them mostly junk. And while all of this is going on, our esteemed Prime Minister heads out to California to sign some sort of a climate deal with that state, with California. This is the way he deals with the economy and anything else. Oh, my poor country. So I ask the question of you, the sane people out there, okay? Do any of you of reasonably clear mind, while sober, anybody, anywhere in the country, we're listened right across the country, okay? Does anybody anywhere at any time really believe that Canada was in danger of a truckers' coup, an insurrection, an overthrow of the government? Were the truckers planning and on the verge of storming Parliament Hill? I don't know, attacking them with what, bouncy castles and sauna baths? Huh? Apparently, according to Trudeau, yes, that was going to happen. In fact, that's the only justification. If, in fact, there was a real danger of an insurrection or coup. So, folks, was there any, in your opinion, okay? While these hearings are underway, let's let them hear our voices, okay? Was there any, in your opinion, was there any possible justification for Trudeau to impose the Emergencies Measures Act and thus suspend our civil liberties? You realize that the Emergency Measures Act did suspend our civil liberties. It suspended our right to free speech, free assembly. As you know, some people very innocently had their bank accounts frozen, didn't even require a judge's order or a warrant. There was a total suspension of your civil rights while that act was enforced. Was there any justification for it? What do you think? John, any response to this?
Yes, sir. Facebook, of course, Lowell's Facebook, my Facebook, the Blast the Radio Facebook. We're on Twitch TV as well as YouTube and on Twitter. You can also listen on blasttheradio.com and on your smart speaker. Just ask it to play blasttheradio.com. And your phone calls and your texts are also welcome. The number here is 613-413-2217. Let's go to Facebook to begin. Lowell, Maggie says, no way. He's on a power trip and looking to take away more.
Let me ask you before you go further.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask everybody out there, were you aware that this act, and it clearly spells this out, essentially removes all of your civil rights? It gives the government, police, the power to essentially do anything. Arrest people without warrant or cause, freeze bank accounts without warrant or cause, suspend freedom of speech, suspend freedom of assembly. Do you realize that that's what happened? I suspect that a lot of Canadians really don't understand the gravity. The Emergencies Measures Act was passed only to be used in the event of an insurrection or a real threatened insurrection or coup, and only after all other legal means had been tried and failed. So when all other legal means fail, there's a real danger of an overthrow of the government. Then you can impose this act, removing virtually all of our civil rights. You realize that under that act, that the police, on someone, your neighbor or whatever, said, I think the guy's got a gun there. I think he's going to attack Parliament Hill, that they could come in without a warrant. That's what the act provides, folks. That's what he imposed on us. I just wondered if you knew that. Okay, John, go ahead. Sorry.
Anne's comment here on Facebook is Marco Mendocino is in contempt of Parliament since he's lied to Parliament and should resign. There is no justification for the Emergencies Act, even as the Liberals madly try to fabricate one.
You know what? That's so true. This guy lied through his teeth in Parliament. That's a very serious offense, or should be. He very clearly, and it's in Hansard, he very clearly said that the police had asked for this. Now the police say, no, we never did. So now, well, you've heard the excuses, the dance with the devil that he is doing here, and he's going to once again get away with it. Go ahead, John.
613-413-2217. This person texts to say, Lowell, by no means the government was threatened to be overthrown by the truckers. Usually weapons are required to do such things, which none were found. By the way, wouldn't the military be summoned if they felt the government was threatened? Isn't that what Dada Trudeau did?
Well, actually, under this act, the military could have been called in. As I say, the act provides, if you examine it, essentially a total cessation of civil rights. Military can move in, police can move in, as we saw, the banks can move in. That's the kind of power. This is the kind of power that is given to governments when there is a very definite risk of being overthrown by a foreign power or an insurrection of some kind. That removal of civil rights. Go ahead, John.
Darren says, absolutely, Marco needs to resign. Here's
Yes,
someone texting in with a question for you, Lowell. How can Trudeau go to California when he tested positive for COVID after his return home from the summit last week? He should follow his own rules and stay home and wear a mask when among many people.
I was mistaken. He went to California. I guess I'm had difficulty following this. The summit, I gather, was in Los Angeles, so
Yeah.
he was in California at the time, and when he came home, apparently
Then
he has
tested
COVID
positive.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. That was my mistake.
That's okay. I got you. Craig says, I agree. Marco should resign. Christine says, the fringe minority, and she puts that in quotes, that actually live in Centertown and lost minimum wage pay will have a different view than folks that are worried about powering their pool heaters in the burbs. It was an occupation. I don't care what their intent was. It was time to go home, and I don't care how they got them out of here. They had their say for over 3 weeks and then cried victimhood when they were sent home in their $100,000 truck.
So you're telling me that we can remove civil rights, impose essentially martial law because they've stayed too long here? Was there any violence? Was there a threat of violence? They were noisy. They were a pain in the ass for some people. When people say that was justified, that really concerns me, because I mean that's the kind of justification that dictatorships use. Um, folks, there was no danger of an insurrection or coup. You cannot just bring the military in, suspend civil rights because somebody is annoying you. Well, you shouldn't be able to. Go ahead, please.
This is a text from Alberta. Until I watched Mr. Beatty go into the history on why and the purpose of the Emergencies Measure Act, I did not know what and how they could use the act, this person says. Peter says, military MPs were on the Hill the other day. Whatever happened, no one knows what went on Sunday. I know, Peter. The Border Patrol raised suspicion about a couple of vehicles that they felt may have bombs or bomb-making material in them that were around the Hill during, I guess, it's a commemoration of the Air India disaster, which is how those vehicles came to be near the Hill in the first place. And that raised suspicion, and they took every precaution, which is why the military police, the RCMP, and the Ottawa police descended on that and closed the downtown. There you
go. John, it would appear that they got a bad tip, that somebody tipped them off that a couple of the Sikhs that were on the Hill were a danger. I don't have proof of that, but that's my understanding.
That sounds like it. But I mean, an abundance of caution, too.
Yeah.
You imagine if you don't take, those precautions and something happens. All right, Christine's back to say bullshit. They tried to burn down an apartment building and kicked in the windows with pride flags.
That's not true. They see there's the great lie. They arrested two young men for trying to set fire to that apartment building. Two young men who had absolutely nothing to do with the convoy. And, please, when you spread rumors, vicious rumors like this, lies, you're lying. There was no attempt by anybody in the convoy to set fire to anybody. That is an outrageous lie. And you should be ashamed for spreading vicious lies. Go ahead, please.
All right. She follows up to say, it is true. We'll move on to Joshua.
It's not true. It's not true. You're lying through your teeth. You shame on you. And I call on some other people to set this. Who wrote this, John?
That's Christine, who's now calling you a liar, by the way. So back and forth we go.
What have I lied about? The police say that the two that they arrested for the apartment attempted fire had nothing to do with the convoy. This is a vicious lie that you are spreading. Go ahead.
All right. Joshua says, so some are saying we can impose civil rights for something you don't agree with. I wouldn't want that for anyone, even if I disagreed with them. Let's go back to...
as an example, I mean, sure. Essentially, Putin has removed civil rights in Russia. You're not allowed to criticize the government now for attacking Ukraine. So that's, that if you want that kind of government, if you want that kind of administration, well, move to Russia. Go ahead, please.
All right, here's a text from Barry at 613-413-2217. Rex Murphy insurrection was one scruffy, unkept street bum walked in front of the trucks and said they were going to overthrow the government. So the media hypes that video clip and the Liberals jumped on the bandwagon with the Emergencies Act.
I didn't even see that. I don't recall anybody ever saying that, but go ahead.
The police always knew those apartment vandals had nothing to do with the convoy, says Gregory. Kathy says she needs to fact-check her accusations. Shame on her for false information. And you righties are full of shit, is Christine's follow-up. All right, moving on. Gregory says the proof of the danger of the truckers was clearly demonstrated in the lack of residence violence demonstrated during the police takedown. Show me any acts of violence towards the police during that takedown. Murray says you couldn't have asked for a more peaceful protest with that many people and that length of time. Terry says the truckers didn't even overthrow snowballs.
An earlier writer, in trying to justify this, said, "Well, they overstayed their stay." I agree. I said
for sure.
I said and you agreed with me that it was time for them to go. Let me just point out that without the use of the Emergencies Measures Act, Doug Ford managed to clear the International Bridge at Windsor. He just sent the police in there. He issued a warrant and said, remove them there, and it was done peacefully. Same thing happened in Alberta. There was a bit of a danger there, but they didn't need any Emergencies Measures Act. The police just moved in and did their job. That's all. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, we needed to find a different solution to get them the hell out of downtown. They did overstay their welcome. They
Oh,
were
of
induced,
course. Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
But the Emergencies Measures Act, I mean, that's a lot. Like you said, that's a last ditch resort for something
And
major
that's
that is
intended
about
to
to
be.
happen.
That's intended to be because it is draconian.
Yes.
This act essentially gives the prime minister the powers of a dictator. Essentially, you can do. I mean, let's face it. We had innocent people who, in one cases that we know of, she donated $25 to a perfectly legal convoy, and her bank account was frozen without even being notified. That's the kind of power that a dictator has. I'm not even sure if Putin can move into people's bank accounts and freeze them. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. We got to get a word in for Shields. Let's go to Peter first. He says, no one involved with the convoy was guilty of any crime. Lowell is right. Media lies about trying to blame the fire on members of the convoy, same as the story of storming food banks. The truckers in reality gave the food banks so much food, they had to ask them to stop giving.
Yeah, it was amazing. There was no question that the media, led by the prime minister, set out, and it was largely because, I mean, let's be very honest here, John. It was the F Trudeau signs. This just drove Trudeau bonkers. And he did everything in his power to marginalize, et cetera, called them what, the fringe minority, they called them homophobics, terrorists, spread stories about being financed by American interests. All of this turned out to be lies. Shields.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned yesterday that there's some really good bargains right now at Shields. I mentioned Electrolux. Depending on how many appliances you buy, you can save up to 20% off the list price. And of course, with Shields, when it's a sale, it's a real sale. They don't go into this business of jacking up the price one day and then bringing it down and claiming they're saving 20%. So if you buy, for example, 5 or more appliances, which you may very well do, you're outfitting your kitchen or whatever, from Electrolux, you'll save 20%, which is considerable. That's until I think it's June 22nd. I'm just pointing out that, yes, they have a lot of special sales, a lot of bargains, and yes, financing is available. Check with them. You'll see it on the website, shields.ca. Good folks. Go ahead, John.
All right, I just want to get back to a comment that Maggie posted moments ago. She says, 41-year-old Ottawa man is facing the same set of charges as the 21-year-old. Arson with disregard for human life, arson causing property damage, mischief to property, endangering life, and possessing incendiary material. In news releases announcing both sets of charges, police said there is, quote, no information indicating the men were involved in any way with the protests.
Yeah, everybody knows that. Just a few people, vicious CBC listeners out there, liberal supporters trying to spread false stories. Shame on you. Go ahead.
And just for the record, Maggie is also linking to the story that she's quoting. So that's there on the record. Kathy says the poor truckers were even accused of rape along with stealing food from the food banks. Sad our media stooped so low to spread this false information.
One of the things that I found really, really unfair and sad, one woman for several seconds did something she should not have done. She got up on the tomb of the unknown soldier and did a little dance and got down. There were, 10, 15, 20,000 people here at one time. One woman and all of that. And for the rest of the whole convoy was sort of tarred with the same brush. You're all out there dancing on the tomb of the unknown soldier. It was totally unfair. And the media knew it was unfair as well. Go ahead, John, please.
Yeah, but what's going to sell more? Banner ads, etc.
It was deplorable what the media did. And by the way, that woman has been identified. She's apologized. She said she really didn't realize what she was doing, and no charges were laid. One woman out of thousands and thousands of supporters and truckers, and the whole convoy is tarred with that brush. Go ahead.
Gregory says, CBC, CTV Global, the Ottawa Citizen, they should all be charged with conspiracy and spreading hatred with their intentions of seeking to create riots in Ottawa. These media targeted their reporting to create hatred. Listening from Aruba.
Don't forget. Don't forget. The question is, in your opinion, was there any justification for imposing this draconian act? Go ahead, John. Sorry.
All right, no problem. Let's go to text 613-413-2217. It's really scary that the government can actually get a hold of your bank account to put a freeze on it. So really, they have full control over us. Tom has a question. Can the NDP break their coalition agreement?
Well, sure. Well, as far as I know, there's no money passed hands. I don't think there's any sworn statement. It's just, but you know what? I mean, Singh knows that if the government falls, that the NDP ain't going to be the government, and probably won't be the official opposition. So it's just his method of clinging to power. That's all. And you know what? And everybody knows it. Go ahead, John.
Let's do an email. Lowell at blasttheradio.com. Lowell, the mistake the truckers did was occupy downtown. They should have camped out in Barhaven, Canada, and Orleans, where the vast majority of feds live, says Lisa. Okay. I love how the lefties try to equate what happened in Washington to the trucker protest. The world is getting more stupid daily, says Ann. It was annoying, probably, but not dangerous, so it is a ridiculous comparison. Donald says truckers only wanted the truth to come out and not let Justin in hot tubes. Okay. Joshua is saying, so some are saying, no, we read that earlier, Joshua. Sorry, Eileen. In the House, when asked why he ordered the Messengers Act, he always ends with, they are keeping the Canadian people safe. I don't recall being in danger from the truckers. There's an interesting
talking about, I guess she's talking about the War Measures Act, right? Or the Emergency Measures Act.
Measures Act, yeah.
Yeah, not the messenger. Okay.
If you're following Pierre Poilievre on Facebook, he posted an interesting video the other day regarding this new Bill C-11 and how that's kind of the sales line. We're keeping Canadians safe. By regulating what they see on the internet, we're keeping Canadians safe.
Dangerous man. This, I believe that Justin Trudeau is the most dangerous man we have ever elected to public office in this country. And Gerald Butts is the third most dangerous man. The second most dangerous man is Guilbeault, the environment minister. We've got three of the most dangerous people in the country running the country. Scary stuff. Go ahead.
Quite simply, a direct answer to your question, no justification for the act, says this person at 613-413-2217. Kirk adds, as someone who served, no justification for what our PM and governments did. Ann adds, no wonder that survey about trust in media showed such a deplorable lack of trust in media by a lot of us. If they can't find facts that fit their narrative, they appear to make it up or embellish and exaggerate everything, even minor incidents, out of proportion, and mostly protect liberal politicians.
Very true. Very true. Very accurate statement. Thank you.
Let me see. I don't believe government was in danger of being overthrown, says Mike. Richard says trying to connect the dots. Was Trudeau not to appear at a standing committee the first time he got COVID? And now with the Emergency Act Standing Committee, Trudeau, conveniently gets COVID again. Wow, what a scam.
I never thought of that.
There are own conspiracy theories happening here.
You know what? With this guy, anything could be true. Let's be honest. Go ahead, John.
Going back to your earlier comment, how you started the show looking at solar power right now, Patricia says every household will need to put a windmill in their backyard and solar panels on the roofs to generate enough power to assist Ontario Power Grid with their electric needs for the future.
Yeah, here's the problem, okay? So you've got a windmill in every backyard, solar panels on every roof. Wonderful. Now the wind doesn't blow and it's night. Where do you get your power? Go ahead, John.
No is a direct answer to your question from Ray. Rex is right, says David. A definite no to your question, says Carolyn. Trudeau's imagination ran wild. I'm glad Rex Murphy is on the side of sanity, adds Anne. Carrie says there was absolutely no justification for the Emergencies Measure Act. Tom adds no justification at all. Sean says no weapons or backing of the military, which is typical in a coup, only roasted pigs, bouncy castles, and a hot tub or two. Canada was never in any danger whatsoever.
Did they roast a pig? No, I missed that one.
I think so. Lowell, there was so much insanity at that thing, I've lost track of just what was what.
Okay, a bouncy castle, a roasted pig, and a hot tub.
Yep.
And this is an insurrection?
Yep.
Go ahead, John.
Yep, close down everyone's rights right across the country because, a few people downtown Ottawa are inconvenienced. Listen, it was a pain in the ass, I admit that. But
yeah, no question.
Not worthy of what equates to our modern-day version of the War Measures Act.
Just get the police do their job and get them out of there. Go ahead.
What? You say crazy things. All right, on Twitch, Laurentian View Terry says there's no way in hell that the government could have been overthrown, even if anyone had gotten into the buildings who would have listened to them. Who would have listened to them anyway? He says the American insurrection the year prior, this person suggests, helped stoke the fire on this one. If that doesn't happen, I don't think things unfold the same way here. And Peter says, no, I don't believe that any government was going to fall in regard to earlier this year. If Trudeau hadn't called people names and met with some of the people involved, it would not have been an issue. People did get a wake up to how he operates and the leftist media in this country. Talked to many people who got to see how things operate in this country. The Trudeau party is corrupt, whiny, leftist, fringe group. There's that word again.
Dangerous, dangerous. Thank you all. Some good response today. I appreciate it very much. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.